field boundaries. I think I better clean my car. You can't even see out the windows. It's like a barn find. 2 minutes later, now I can see out the windows. Tyre pressures are low, so I'm just going to blow them up. It's not got punches, it just doesn't seal properly on the beads for some reason. Drilling wheat now after the beans over here, and this is the oilseed rape we drilled last Friday. And I think what's today? Wednesday, and it's up already. Actually, was it Friday? Was it Thursday? I can't remember now. Anyway, that's good because it was quite late sown. Nice warm seed bed after spring barley. I think this is the driest ever conditions we've drilled in September, but hopefully we'll get this rain tomorrow and things will start to grow. It is only early, so we don't need to grow too quick. If I knew Christine wanted to play with the jet wash, she could have done my car for me. On this oilseed rape stubble here, we were worried that we'd not got the seed deep enough because the culture pressure had turned itself off without us realising yesterday. So we're just lightly disking to make sure the seed's buried properly before the birds eat it, which is a bit of a pain. Job that we didn't want to do, but we also don't want to waste the seed and have it all eaten. It's just one of them things. Every year there's always something that goes wrong. Yeah, it's a much better seed bed now than it was before. It's a shame we've had to do this because the problem is some of this soil could then start to move if we get some heavy rain, and then it blocks the holes already in the soil. I need to draw this on a whiteboard actually, so you know what we're talking about with the whole no-till farming kind of stuff. But anyway, it's got a better chance now. We'll get it rolled as well, keep some of the moisture in, get it nice and level as well, so it's better for the pre-emergence spray to work. Less surface area, you see, for the spray to go on. Not got a whiteboard, but if you imagine the plants growing and then the roots go down vertically like that, well then if they're down vertically like that and then you tumble all the soil up by working it, you basically end up jumbling up all them fissures that are already going down and all the worm canals, and then also making soil at the top that's fine, that when it rains can run into them gaps and block them all up. So we don't want that, because then we get like a compaction layer in the top, and also these canals get blocked up, so the new roots can't be lazy and go down the route with the old roots, and we'll be able to find the bottom moisture when they need it. So interestingly enough, this year the highest yielding field of wheat came off a direct drilled field, because last year not everything was direct drilled. Some we had to pre-work and level off because we'd obviously made a mess harvesting last year because it was so wet, but the highest yielding by quite a long way was one that was just no-till, so we literally just stitched the new crop straight into the residue and the stubble of the old crop, and then that way then the roots just found the easiest route down, which is down the root canals of the old kind of established crop. And that was, I think that was wheat after oilseed rape, so it found all down the tap roots and stuff like that. Into Bill's last field of beans now, pigeons on it as well. It's the flat in places, but the combine is just shaping them off the wood. I don't know what happened then, just too busy filming. Just reverse that now. Spit that out backwards, try again. Click that. Should take it this time. That rattle clutch is better than stuff in a feeder house. Yeah, anyway, the beans are flat, but it's just slicing them off the floor and scooping them up, no problem at all, with the header in float or flex, whatever you want to call it. That was a slow motion of the header going over the ruts in the field, just flexing. It's a bit difficult to see where I'm going, there's that much dust coming off these beans now. The house is over there. So this is now the last pass of harvest 2021. Unless I cut the sunflowers, but I don't cast them as a crop because we kind of make money out of them with the public visiting rather than actually harvesting them, and depending on the weather we might not even get them. But this is the Bill's beans finished now, all mine finished. wheat, barley, beans, oilseed rape, everything now, all done, and the combine will definitely be parked up for at least a month or two if it does come out for the sunflowers. So it's available to buy if anyone wants to buy it, and if I could get my money back, I'd sell it because they have gone up apparently, and then I can have a fresh one for next year. But I don't think it'd add up. But if anyone in Europe wants to export it back, I believe it'd be value for money. So this is the last bit now. Hooray! So the machine has pretty much been faultless apart from the belt going. We don't know why it went. Well, we do know why it went. We were cutting some sort of extreme conditions with a lot of bindweed in some oilseed rape, which we probably shouldn't have been cutting anyway. When it was quite damp, and I wasn't driving, Adam was at the time, so we don't know whether it was the computer or what. But anyway, a belt snapped, but that's about it really. So can't complain. We've now cut. Let me look. Counter. 868 hectares. So let me work that out. I think it's about 2,100-ish acres, maybe. I'll work it out. Yeah, just shy of 2,150 acres. It would have been a little bit more, but we ended up putting a bit more into spuds. Anyway, I better go while I'm top of the trail. I don't want to spill the last load. Not a bad load for the last load. Last field all done now. I didn't notice because I was going that way and there was so much dust. But basically a fox ran out, went into the back of one of these houses. The guy was stood in his garden with his beagle. The beagle chased the fox round till it ran into his patio doors. The fox then knocked itself out in the patio door glass. It shut the dog back in the house, then the fox woke up and then it ran off again. So of all the gardens to run in, it ran in one with a beagle in it, which is like a foxhound, aren't they? Yeah, the ideal scenario would be sell it now, then I won't have any HP to pay over winter, and then have a new one delivered in June and save a bit of money. But obviously we've got to find someone that's interested in this combine now to use it, sort of like maybe in Australia or whatever, because the harvest is coming up. We're just covering up the dryer intake with plywood because we don't want leaves and stuff blowing it. The compost over there, the green waste, and the combine's going to go in here. The only shed that's sort of undercover. Need to refurb that in the winter as well. Just putting some hay caps on for James. We're just rearranging the rape straw that's stacked on the field. Just got to make sure we got it all stacked up ready because it is going to rain tomorrow. So it's dead simple. You just basically wind the screws in, hold the tabs, and then they end up being the top bales, and as they go together they all butt up, and then this lip pushes against itself here and creates its own roof with a gutter. David actually that sells these, he's opening a sunflower maze, so I'm going to try and get up there on Saturday if I can and see how it's going for him. Not sure when these will be fit to combine. The bees are still feeding off them. This is the third field. The second field's sort of dying off a bit now. And the first field's died off quite a lot. One of the sails has come undone, but we're shut anyway today at the moment. Only open at the weekends. Got a nursery teacher coming up. She wants some sunflowers for the kids to sort of play with and pull the seeds out of, and maybe plant and stuff like that. So I've got me secateurs, so I'm going to cut a few off for her so she can take them back and they can play with them. Close look at the third field of sunflowers, all just in bud. These will all be out within the next week. Interestingly enough, they're facing this way. In the morning they were facing that way because we've now been getting sunshine sort of wall to wall each day. Really hot as well. They might, when I harvest them actually this year, they might yield not too bad because they've kind of had a Ukrainian summer perhaps. But I don't know what I'll do with the seed. If anyone's got any ideas what to do with the seed, is it bird seed? Should I try and get it crushed into oil? You know, what should I do? Also, while you're commenting, what was written on the fast track at the very early part of the video? See if you can remember. In the dust. Just going to put in some untreated seed now as a bit of an experiment next to some treated seed. We used to be able to put a dressing on sort of to stop different things, but we can't now. Yeah, seed dressings used to do a lot of different things, and over the years they got less and less effective because different things have been banned. So this is literally just clean seed rather than anything treated on it. So we'll see how it works against some other stuff. Look at that sky. Last field of wheat going in before the rain tomorrow. the 20-acre block here. We're just going to quickly crash this in, see if we can get it rolled as well before it rains. So, because it's pre-work, because we weren't the mucking, we fly with the drill on this hopefully. Plenty of dust as well. Right, here's a better drawing than the one I had on the Merlot before. So basically, no-till soil and tilled soil. No-till soil, you've got the roots going down from the previous crop, and then they go all the way down into the soil profile, and all the worm casts and all the little wormholes do exactly the same thing. And then you've got tilled soil. So the no-till soil, we stitch new crops in, and it basically just finds its way down the old root canals and the old wormholes. If you till the soil, you basically end up with like a fine layer on the top because you've created a seed bed. Then that fine layer then can move around when it rains and block up the pores in the big bits where you might have ploughed or worked. These are the big bits. Then at the bottom of the big bits, you then have the similar thing where you get a pan where the fine soil can fall down and block and create like another like sealed layer, especially in clay soils like we have. You can then correct that with deep tillage, like whereas you'd put like a mould drain through or a sumo or a deep leg, but then you've only done that every so often, and that costs a lot of time, diesel and wearing metal, and obviously not good for the environment because every time you move soil you release carbon out of it. So your ground gets addicted to that because you've got all these like fine particles of soil. Every time you drive on them, they squash down. And when they squash down, you lose the air in them. So you have to bust them again to pull them out. Whereas once you get it into no-till, it takes a few years of sort of what they call the no-till barrier, pain barrier, of getting the soil to self-structure. But when you dig into it, it's like an aero, like a piece of chocolate or a honeycomb, where it's full of all these little pores, but it's also incredibly strong. So when you drive over it, it doesn't slump, it doesn't sink, because you've not been moving it around and stirring it. Now, this is kind of foolproof because it works every year, but it's expensive. And over time, it adds up to a lot of money. I couldn't cover the area that we're covering without probably another at least one, maybe two big horsepower tractors, 3 times the diesel bill, and an extra few members of staff. This method, you're investing very little in the crop until you know you've got one as well. So that's it. There's a little bit less risk in it once you've kind of gone through this barrier, but you've got to have the right kind of drill that can work in trashy conditions and put the seed in to the soil that could maybe be baked at the top. This was the problem we had yesterday. The drill wasn't set correctly and we didn't get the seed deep enough. Anyway, we've sorted that now and we've had to do a bit of tillage. So we have now got on these layers at the top, which I am a little bit worried could start moving around. But if that wheat takes really quick and starts to grow, hopefully it'll stabilise that top layer of soil and it won't start moving around and blocking these old pores up. Anyway, that's a quick introduction in 2.3 minutes of what to do. Sorry, 2.5 minutes of no-till versus ploughing and sort of conventional tillage. One last thing as well, if you move the soil too much, it also then can move when it rains and end up in the drains and the rivers as well. So that's another thing. So obviously keeping ground cover and not moving it helps with that. Anyway, that's probably all for today. Bit of a lecture. If you want to watch another video, it's over there. If you want to subscribe, it's over there. Thanks to everyone that's watching. Don't forget, if you're a new subscriber, tell me where you're watching from, or also tell me your occupation, because that's interesting to see who's watching. And I'll see you all tomorrow.